Okay, so I thought that it might be helpful for me to explain the pencil strokes that I use in my artwork and my pet portraits. I use 6 basic strokes, and I get variations of those strokes by either altering the angle of my pencil, perhaps having a slightly sharper or less sharp pencil, or a chisel tip to the end of my pencil, and holding my pencil at different angles. So either tipping it up and using it as I'd use a pen, or sort of flattening it down towards the paper, and perhaps holding it a bit further back from the end of the pencil. So let's go through the different pencil strokes and I'll explain what I mean. So the first stroke that I use is usually the outline stroke. I want a sharp pencil so they get a nice crisp line, and I'll either apply a long stroke using even but light pressure, or perhaps a dashed slightly broken line using several light strokes to sketch an outline in. It's important to keep my pressure even, but also to use a light pressure just in case I make an error and I need to correct it with an eraser. So as the name suggests, this is a pencil stroke that I use to outline areas like the eye, and it's usually one of the first, if not the first, pencil stroke that I use on any piece of artwork. So the next stroke that I use often is what I call a basic stroke, where I put my pencil down on the paper and draw the line, flicking the pencil off at the end. This creates the wispy bits on the end of the line and creates the suggestion of the fur. So I'll alter the direction of the hair slightly, even though the fur's going the same way. I don't want parallel lines, I want them to overlap each other a little bit, and that creates a more natural fur. The pencil strokes can be short to create shorter hair, or longer to create a longer coat. And the line doesn't have to be straight, it can be used to create curly or wavy fur too. The third stroke that I use is what I call a circular motion. I use very light, even pressure to create small overlapping circles to fill an area with the pigment. Once it's finished, I don't want to see the pencil lines at all. I just want an even application of colour, and it can take a little bit of practice to get the even coverage. I don't want to press hard in one area and then lighter in another. I want the same pressure throughout. I'd say that this stroke is one that is actually worthwhile practicing before using directly down onto your artwork, just to make sure that you can achieve that even, light, consistent pressure with no pencil lines showing in the finished result. So I'll sometimes use this circular motion to create a base layer in a larger area. I find I can get a good coverage quite easily using this particular method. I also find this method really useful to blend previous layers together, especially if I want to fade out some of the pencil strokes from the layers below. The circular motion works the pencils from different directions and will either work the pigment into the tooth of the paper to get rid of some of the graininess, or it can help to push the previous layers together and blend the colour directly down onto the paper. I find this a useful method of laying down colour if I can't see the direction of fur on the reference photograph. If the fur direction isn't there on the reference photograph, I don't try to put it into my portrait. So these circular motions are useful at applying colour when I can't see any fur direction. And I also find this method useful to add a glaze of colour at the end over the top of all the other layers to give the tint of colour that I need. The next pencil stroke that I use quite a bit is what I call a V-stroke. So basically I'm creating little random V's on the paper. This is a little bit similar to the basic stroke, but by putting your pencil down in a V shape, you create a little bit more of a softer, more textured fur. You can see the wispy ends go up and the wispy ends come down, and that creates a nice random textured fur. So the next pencil stroke I use quite a lot is a circular stroke, but this time I leave a little gap in the middle of the circles, whereas this one we filled the circles in. This time I'm leaving a little gap in the circles. I use this quite a lot for dog noses, creating dog noses. It just creates that texture. I want my circles to be quite sort of random. Perhaps some will be slightly filled in a little bit, some will be open, but it just creates that sort of random texture for the end of a dog's nose. And the final pencil stroke that I tend to use is a wavy line. For this one, I do tilt my pencil on the side and I do hold my pencil a little bit further back on the pencil, and I just create almost little crinkles, little waves. They can go either way and they can overlap each other to create a bit more of a concentration of colour towards one end. For this technique, I need a particularly light hand, perhaps a sharper pencil. It doesn't have to be completely sharp. I'm actually working with a bit of a chisel tip here and it would still work. It depends where I'm working on the animal. If I was working on the inside of the mane, the pencil could perhaps be a little bit blunter with a chisel tip, or if I'm working on the end of the mane, I might want a sharper pencil to create some wispy bits right on the end. So these are the basic strokes that I use. I can achieve lots of variation of these basic strokes depending on where I hold my pencil, if I hold my pencil back, or if I hold my pencil closer to the end of the pencil, or if I've got a sharper or a not so sharp point on the end. I can create variations, but these are basically the 6 pencil strokes that I use throughout my artwork. So I hope you found this useful for your own colour pencil work. Any questions, then do pop them down in the comments and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. And thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.